Hey, my loves, can we talk about something that weighs heavy on a lot of us, and then the only thing that we can articulate is how did this happen? Well, Psalms 102 is a book that some assume David wrote, or possibly the prophet Daniel or Nehemiah. They assume that this was a book that was written possibly to the Church of Babylon. Why does that matter? Because it describes the ruin of Zion and a time for rebuilding it. It is a suffering psalmist who prays for God to hear him and to be in control. He wants future generations to remember what he has experienced so they will learn to love God too. Psalms 102 and 13 suggest it's a time of captivity. And so, what that means to us is that we have encouragement when we are faced with God, how did it get here? I don't understand why this is reality. Rather, it is the change of a relationship, processing a transition, whether it is internally, personally, or professionally. We are entitled to have our emotions and we are definitely entitled to process them. However, it is vital that we steward transitions with emotional intelligence. The Passions Translation says this. It states, "This is a prayer for those who are overwhelmed and for all the discouraged who come to pour out their hearts before the Lord." The title in the Passion Translation is Tears to Praise. But we're going to read a couple of verses from the English Standard Version. And it says, "Do not hide your face from me." Verse 1 says this, "Hear my prayer, O Lord. Let my cry come to you. Do not hide your face from me in the day of my distress. Incline your ear to me. Answer me speedily in the day when I call. But you, O Lord, are enthroned forever. You are remembered throughout all generations. You will rise and have pity on Zion. It is time to favor her. The appointed time has come. Nations will fear the name of the Lord, and all the kings of the earth will fear your glory. For the Lord builds up Zion. He appears in his glory. He regards the prayer of the destitute and does not despise their prayer. The children of your servant shall dwell secure. Their offspring shall be established before you." These are some of the verses in Psalms 102 that I wanted to highlight because they show where we go from disappointment to possibly distress, then depression that can lead us to move in anxious ways because anxiety is all we feel because we are like, God, how did I get here? How did we get here? Right? And it shows us that, okay, God, I'm disappointed. Now I'm going to pour out my emotions to you. Then I'm going to remember who you are and that you're still on the throne. And though I'm still unsure, I know that you're God and you're with me. And though it may not look the way I want it to look as it's working out, I know it's going to work out in my favor. So though my hope is the size of a mustard seed, you said that's all that I need. So I'm going to hold on to that and I'm going to keep pressing. I love it because this Psalms 102, it also shows us, hey, you're emotional. Now let God's wisdom steward your emotions, and that equals emotional intelligence. Tiff, what is emotional intelligence? It is the ability to manage both your own emotions and understand the emotions of the people around you. Let's break that down. Self-awareness, being aware of your own feelings and what they mean. Self-regulation, being able to control your emotions. Empathy, being able to understand and relate to the emotions of others. Effective communication and social skills are required when you are pushing forward with emotional intelligence. That's being able to communicate effectively and interact well with others. Spiritual motivation, the drive that motivates human behavior to fulfill spiritual needs. When we are children of God and we are faced with disappointing events, confusion, chaos, it is vital that we take a step back and say, God, I have got to steward this with emotional intelligence. Proverbs 16:2 says this: we are all in love with our own opinions, convinced they're correct. But the Lord is in the midst of us, testing and probing every motive. Proverbs 21:2 says this: we may think we're right all the time, but God thoroughly examines our motives. Matthew 6:3, but when you demonstrate generosity, do it with pure motives and without drawing attention to yourselves. Matthew 6:1, examine your motives to make sure you're not showing off when you do your good deeds, only to be admired by others. Otherwise, you will lose the reward of your heavenly Father. Philippians 1 verses 15 and 16. It is true that there are some who preach Christ out of competition and controversy, for they are jealous over the way God has used me. Who is me? It's the people that say, God, I'm going to pull away and I'm going to ensure that I reflect what you have called me to reflect. Many others have purer motives. They preach with grace and love, fulfilling their hearts because they know I've been destined for the purpose of defending the revelation of God. We're just vessels that have been graced to be used by our Father. Nothing more, nothing less. And if we steward that right, we get the ultimate reward, and that is heaven when our transition comes. 2 Corinthians 10:5. Demolish every deceptive fantasy that opposes God, and break through every arrogant attitude that is raised up in defiance of the true knowledge of God. We capture and insist that it bow in obedience to the Anointed One. Take every thought captive and test it by the Spirit of God. And remember, it is okay to process when you are faced with, how did I get here? I pray that you were blessed today and that you know you are loved and you got this. Faint not. God is with you.